You're listening to E-commerce Fastlane, the podcast show to help you build, manage, grow, and scale a successful and thriving company, powered by Shopify. Listen to real conversations with partners and subject matter experts as they share proven practical strategies, platforms, and the best Shopify apps to help you accelerate your business. The time is now for you to improve efficiencies, grow revenue, profit, and lifetime customer loyalty. Please welcome your host, startup founder and strategic advisor, Steve Hutt.
Welcome back to another episode of E-commerce Fastlane. I'm your host, Steve Hutt. Thanks so much for joining us today. There is so many podcast choices out there in the world of direct-to-consumer and retail and the marketing space. I thank you so much for joining us today because this episode is very unique. I'm excited to have my guest. Her name is Debbie Pierce, and she's the founder of a company called CartStars. That's CARTStars.com. And what they are is they're an exclusive community for e-commerce and retail leaders. Debbie really is a visionary. She's the entrepreneur that's really behind this platform. She's created this thing that really connects some of the most influential and I'd argue maybe some of the most successful professionals in the industry. I kind of creeped on the LinkedIn profile for CartStars, and I'm really pleasantly surprised at the incredible amount of power that's in this group. The people that are running some of the biggest, baddest brands that you've heard of are part of this private community that's by invitation only. We'll learn a lot about that. One thing about Debbie, she has a really unique journey. I kind of did a little bit of research before recording today, but one of the things about her I see, and I'm sure we're gonna hear from her, is this her resilience and her determination. Like her background, really has shaped her to be a very compassionate leader. She really truly understands the value of having authentic relationships and just the power of just uplifting others. You'll tell by when you listen to her in a moment. It's really exciting. I want to dive into her story about CartStars. I want to explore a little bit about what it's like to build this, I call it like a high value network, almost like it's just incredible. This professional development of e-commerce and retail set. All these people are coming together, all thanks to Debbie and her vision for CartStars. So hi, Debbie. Welcome to E-commerce Fastlane.
Hi, Steve. Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. It's exciting to be on here today.
Absolutely. Something about your journey that I find fascinating, that I think I want to set the stage first about your journey to America. And it seems like it all started from your mother's kind of brave journey. And I think it's really inspiring. And I think it's important to kind of tell that story first. And then maybe, I guess the second part of that question is that how has that experience kind of, I guess, shaped your approach to leadership and then community building with your business now at CartStars?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Steve. I do think it's a pivotal part of my journey because my mom came to the US. She landed in New York City without a jacket in winter with $1 in her pocket. And having that as, the background and context really made me passionate about what we as human beings can do and our potential. She'd managed to get a letter that she had of someone that she'd met to come pick her up. And, through the support of this person, she went on to become an engineer, moved to the Silicon Valley. And my sister and I were able to join her when we were teenagers about 8 years later. And, credit everything that we have to, we have present day to her and her journey and her story and, that bravery and the courage that she had to leave everything she knew behind and come to this brand new country with basically nothing.
Yeah.
And, through the power of community and the relationships, she really was able to thrive and get to where she is today. So in answer to your question about how this shapes the way that I think about leadership, how this shapes the way that I think about community, I really think about the places that we get to as a collective rather than an individual. I typically say, not in a bad way, but none of us are all that smart, truly. everything that we know is learned, right? We've learned all these things from other people who've learned. And so we are already like an accumulation of all of the knowledge we've gotten from everyone else that's come before us. And so the idea behind community is really being able to create spaces where that is happening. We're sharing knowledge, we're sharing insight, we're going on this journey together, knowing that what can be achieved as a group is incredible and, you know, vast in comparison to what an individual can achieve alone.
Hmm. What's interesting, like, why did you choose e-commerce and retail for the community building efforts that you have? Because I think that's an important caveat too. Because I mean, I appreciate what you're saying about wanting to build that community and the shared insights of the group, but that group could be any group. But you're choosing commerce, and so can you kind of chat about that a bit?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Steve. And I think I was just recently asked this as well. It was really a couple of things. I found myself in the retail and e-commerce industry about 6 years ago. And immediately I just noticed that the people in the industry were different and the way the ecosystem is built was different. And what it resulted in for me was this sense of belonging. And so I spent the last 6 years building relationships in this industry. And I don't know how to describe it. You probably know this, Steve, just from being in the industry yourself. The humans in our industry are very relaxed and casual, super smart operators.
Hmm.
The leaders that we work with that run the top brands have really lean teams. And so I think a part of it is the peak performers. And that's what we really have in retail and e-commerce, and especially the community that we've brought together. It's the top of the top of the top. And I think I myself, feel like I belong to the high performing community.
Hmm.
And I would argue that e-commerce and retail has some of the most talented top performers across all industries.
What's interesting is the amount of hats that, like, when you talk about, chief operating officer or chief platform officer or chief marketing officer or director of e-commerce, you can think of some of these really high level C-suite kind of titles. They have to wear a lot of hats. Sometimes they're deep into the weeds. Other times they're more managing people and process, which I think is quite interesting. And I think that's the thing that I also do love about this industry is I feel I've been to a lot of IRL kind of like in real life kind of meetups and things, and I find the humility of people and kind of the kindness and openness of a lot of people to
Mhm.
want to share, I think says a lot about the market that we both travel in. So that's kudos to you and making that decision. So
Yeah, absolutely. And kudos to the leaders. You said it really, really well. And, we also talk about, people working in e-commerce and the knowledge that they hold, because at the end of the day, it's really about the human experience when you're thinking about the shoppers and really connecting with your end customers. So it is marketing, but it's part, understanding human behavior. And I found a lot of them to love human beings and just love the psychology and understanding who we are, which lends to them being really self-aware humans. And it's a very unique environment.
mhm. I did research too, kind of before recording, and I think CartStars kind of self-describes itself as a squad of here's the words, but like exceptionally skilled, exactly what you said, influential and very successful leaders. I'd like, can you elaborate more on that criteria for the membership, and then how you kind of maintain a lot of these high community standards, kind of, and who you are choosing to potentially come to, because I know this is by invitation only. So I just want to understand your mindset around this sort of thing of you're really trying to locate these exceptionally skilled people.
Yeah, it's a really good question, Steve. And we think about this in a variety of different ways. So we're starting with, the sort of requirements to become a cart star. And this is something that we've crafted together as a group. One of the things that is, true to my belief of no one is that smart individually in building cart stars. It is something that our founding members have a lot of input on, have guided the decisions, and are going to continue guiding the look and feel and, how we create community together at CartStars. So the one requirement we do have is that everyone in CartStars is an executive. So that means they hold a head of, VP, C-suite title, founder, and above. they are at a retail and e-commerce company. And, the average revenue of the brands that are in CartStars is about annually 127 million. So we really focused on who is that top 5% of operators who were really in that mode of growth and scaling, and went out there to find them. Luckily, we already knew some of them. And in bringing people in, we, are either bringing people in that we know and we've met, we've seen their work, we like what they're doing in the industry, and or our members are able to refer people that they can vouch for.
Mm.
And I think that latter part is unique to CartStars. Everyone that is in our ecosystem, is vouched for and recommended either by myself or someone else that's in the community. So we
Mm.
started with this foundation of trust and are scaling that way.
Mm. So peer invited, I think that's really cool because then, once again, tight knit community, once again, they can, and people travel in the same circles because you've actually been to some, conferences kind of in real life. They could be involved in other different types of maybe Facebook communities and other different ways where professional development communities that they just get to know others and they have a lot of synergy with them, knowing that they love what CartStars offers and they can even like very easily recommend someone to saying, hey, I believe that, this leader, this VP of e-commerce over at this brand might be a good recommendation to join because I believe they can bring some good value to the collective groups. I think it's really cool that you offer that. What's different though, do you believe, between, like, I'm thinking from the professional development side, 'cause I think that's one of the benefits of being in CartStars is just the synergy of the combined group, exactly how you worded it. But if you're addressing kind of this professional development and networking, you'd mostly would think about going to conferences from, the Sub Summit just ended and there's so many great conferences out there where people, well, sometimes they're overwhelming because they're so big and it's hard, and you end up only meeting people literally like in a bar because there's no time anywhere else. But what's your take on the difference between what CartStars is as its kind of digital community versus the IRL kind of larger conference circuit?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I think, you said it yourself, conferences are overwhelming. I, value what they bring to the table, but I myself am not a conference person,
Okay.
mostly because it is large and it is overwhelming. With CartStars, the theory behind it is you don't have to wait until a shop talk or a sub summit or any other conference occurs to find out what your peers are doing.
Right.
We're regularly hosting knowledge shares where people are coming in to exchange what they're doing, what's working, based on topics that members are interested in discussing, from e-commerce forecasting. Last week, we had a knowledge share on alignment with your CFO and your finance team in collaboration. And so we're able to achieve that without being in person, which is one of the things we believe in, do a little bit differently, which is we try to focus our knowledge sharing on the platform because we can access all of our members who live all across North America and outside of North America. And then when we come together in person, it is for building relationships. So the way that we approach that is super different. We don't gather in more than groups of 14 ever. So we're doing a dinner, we're doing a spa, we're doing a cooking class, and it's not an event, it's more of an experience, right? We're going to curate an experience. Our members are going to join. It's a small enough group that they can meet each other. And then it's local to them so that we assure that they're able to see each other over and over and over again. One of the things that's been really interesting about building is the realization that building relationships is the same in every area of your life. So, like you go on the first date, the second date, if it's with a partner and you get to know them, and it's no
Yeah.
different with a friend, it's no different with creating these professional relationships. You need that repeated exposure over and over again. It needs to be something that's convenient in terms of, where you are and where they are. And that's why we're able to match based on locations and curate locally where you live, which, is just a different approach from conferences. I
Mhm.
also believe, and let me know what you think about this, Steve. I'd love to hear your insight. I don't know that people are sharing anything that is proprietary at conferences. I've heard the feedback that people report more results than share exactly how they do things. And it's interesting because if someone has something that works really well, that is a proprietary strategy that gives them an edge, they're not likely to share it on a stage with 500 to 1,000 to 10,000 people. But when they have these closer relationships with people and, it's not a competitive environment, they are able to say, hey, here's where I'm seeing work that maybe you can try out once they have that one-to-one relationship. So I would say that's another component.
I would argue that's probably correct too, because I've interviewed a lot of marketing people, either like platform people, like, trying to get an edge on paid ads or trying to figure out the organic traffic on the SEO side of commerce. There's a few other kind of areas, just the whole challenge right now with just this cookie apocalypse and third party tracking is just, yeah, going by the wayside. And so there's always some tools and things out there. And sometimes I find even interviewing some of these platform founders, they just unfortunately have NDAs with some of the biggest, baddest brands because they don't even really want to talk about the fact that they're using the platform. They're glad they're using it. They can't even use their logo on their homepage, but they say, hey, this very large 9-figure company is using our platform, our AI tool to do X, Y, and Z. And here's the lift they get either in efficiencies or in revenue or LTV or whatever it is. And so I feel that, yeah, people are a little bit tight-lipped when it comes to some of these sort of things. I feel that from an interview side of it, even though I kind of know really who the brand is, they just can't talk about it publicly. And it kind of reminds me too, like even when I was with Shopify, I was there for 6.5 years. I was merchant facing as a success team member. And, one of the things that Shopify Plus did was similar to what you were doing, what you're building right now is they would hand pick some really large brands on the plus side. They figured, hey, let's talk about your current challenges. What's keeping you up at night right now as it comes to just being an operator, but then also what's going on with the platform itself. And then talking about a public roadmap that's more confidential to them. But I think the power of what happened was these people got together and then they broke out into small different groups and the rest of the Shopify team, all different types of the product teams were there to discuss certain things. It could be, hey, I have a subscription challenge, or I have a service challenge, or I have X, Y, and Z, whatever the development challenges they were having. They would then talk to those product teams. But then what happened was a lot of people got to meet others that are in similar roles in non-competitive industries. And then all of a sudden they're swapping phone numbers. And the feedback after this was now they're texting each other. Now they're building relationships all because Shopify put this thing together. And now this is a quarterly thing of, large kind of 8-figure brands are able to get together and discuss kind of, well, what are we rolling out next, or what can we build next that you believe would be impactful for your business? And it sounds like what CartStars is doing something similar, where we have this digital platform and peer reviewed, we have the right people and the right mix of people and the right talent, but we also have some opportunity for meeting up and having experiences, and then all of a sudden that builds a better community and builds better relationships, and then a lot of kind of trust that goes along with the sharing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that's unique is because CartStars is a community and a think tank, we are able to do it across all platforms, with just being completely agnostic and hear from peers who are testing out brand new technologies that are sort of innovative and on the cusp, their experience. They can report back their results. And so you have this ecosystem where, you're discussing all of the, we don't talk about all 10,000, but you have all of
Yeah.
the 10,000 that are being used, which it really helps with understanding who's driving value, for whom they're driving value, what are people's actual experiences. So from the, leaders side, really getting to access that knowledge from their peers is huge.
Hmm.
It's huge in a very noisy industry.
Yeah. It's amazing. What about success stories of CartStars members, either just meeting others, like for sure we just mentioned about the knowledge sharing and bringing back kind of leading edge technology. I think that's really interesting. Is there anything specific that kind of comes to mind and saying, hey, brand A and brand B kind of met each other, or this was shared and then the group decided to give that a try or implement that strategy or implement that mindset around running and being an operator? I don't know if anything comes to mind about what success looks like kind of from within your organization.
Yeah, it's a really good question. And, there's so many different ways that this is done and this happens. And it's, daily, weekly sort of process. We have lots of success stories from leaders who are vetting technologies, getting the insight of their peers at the palm of their fingertips and being able to, ask the stars and have people respond and give them all of the feedback and all of the experience they've had with the technology to help empower them make the right decision. That happens a lot within CartStars. And then the knowledge shares that we host where people are coming in saying, look, I'm really trying to learn collaboration alignment with the finance team. And, people are jumping on and sharing what they've seen work with their own teams, the challenges that they're having. And then, of course, with our partners that we work with, because we do have a very differentiated strategy around partnerships as well. So when we are doing in-person events and we have partners who come in and sponsor this, all of our partners are recommended by CartStars. So going back to your question about conferences, one of the things that is unique to CartStars is that we don't, have partners who may be able to, give us the funds or have the funds for us to do an experience, come join us in person to build relationships.
Right.
Every single partner has to be vouched for by a CartStar first. And this is something that's searchable within our platform. So I can tie it back to the exact leader who recommended that technology. And so what that does is it creates this environment of trust. And when leaders are meeting in person with our partners, we have lots of, stories of them being able to build really great relationships and move forward because they know that they can trust those partners. They can verify that those are the right partners to work with in CartStars. And that's the only way we would have a relationship with them. I feel like there's a lot of partners we've delivered great value for that I could talk about here, but the value is really in the relationship that we help all of the ecosystem create with each other.
I know in the Shopify world, I know you said you're kind of platform and technology agnostic when it comes to commerce. But what's interesting, I know just because I have a lot of context in the Shopify world, and even someone in my position where I get the opportunity to interview these, either marketing partners that are certified by Shopify or these tech partners, and there's like 8,000 tech partners in the Shopify ecosystem. And there's 100+ technology partners, which is, has the reliability and scalability and the privacy policies and all this stuff. Quite a few hoops to jump through to be Plus certified, which is mid-market to enterprise on the Shopify side. And so, but the challenge is, and people even come to me and saying, hey, Steve, like, what do you think about from an email marketing perspective or an SMS perspective? Well, even as an MSM, it was the same kind of challenge again, where, you have to take it as a grain of salt from me and saying, well, if I was running your business, I would consider vet these two solutions or these three solutions and go and try them out. And it was hard to have a hard, fast rule and saying, no, it's all about Klaviyo. Well, it's not all about Klaviyo. A lot of it is, but some of it is not. Have you ever thought about getting like an all-encompassing full solution, like Bloomreach, for example, that is fully baked in for all marketing strategy from SMS to site search and merchandising and all that? And so I think the conversations, I think that's the uniqueness of what CartStars offers, is that I think brands, as you said, 127 million is the kind of the entry level average price point or size of business. They have product market fit. They have an existing piece of technology or technologies that are running their loyalty program and their customer service and their, there's all parts of this business that are running with this tech stack. And I think offering, saying, hey, we're having really good luck with Gorgeous as our CRM. It's just working for us. Or no, we're with Gladly or Customer or whatever. And so it's it's a hard challenge, but I think it becomes easier with warm intros and stuff like that, and saying, no, we're gaining a lot of success out of this solution. Not necessarily recommending it for you, but hey, if you are looking for this kind of technology, we're using this. And I think confidentially, it just kind of works. And so I think that's one of the strengths that, CartStars has, and the membership being able to make these recommendations.
Yeah. And one of the things that's interesting, Steve, is, I had an experience. I was on the software side, and that led me to start investigating how to build a solution for what you've described, which is we have an industry where we have 8,000 technology partners and just as many agency partners. And
Yep.
right, like how do you know? Like, how do you know what works? And even
Right.
people like us who work in the industry, the truth is we're not the users of that technology.
Right.
And so what happened on my end is I was a director of partnerships looking for a PRM, working under a very connected CEO who was able to connect me with 6 other people who did my job. They were peers. I was able to describe to them the way that we built, because that was impactful, the way
Mhm.
that we were structured, what I was looking to achieve, and sort of how I was measured. And they came back and said, don't buy it. It's this technology, and none of the technology on the market is going to do what you want it to do.
Mhm.
And it was a mind blowing moment for me, because I realized, oh, wait, that's how you save time. And that's how you save money. And in a quote made beautiful by one of our members, Kelly Bailey, you don't have to start from scratch if you start from your network. And CartStars is that network for brands to say, here is what I'm looking to solve, or here is who I'm looking to solve this problem. Give me some insight on what your experience has been with them and what the results have been. And you're finally asking the people who are using the technology. I've joked, if you ask me, I'm going to tell you about people I really like, and they're my friends.
Right.
And that it's different from, it's not that it's not important. You should always work with people you like if you have the choice. But, the leaders at CartStars or operators, they have the same goals and KPIs as other leaders. And so they're best suited to have these conversations and make the recommendations, because they understand the stakes. They have empathy for the position that they're in, and nothing to gain pushing someone in a direction or lose either way, right? One of
Mhm.
our members puts it really well. They say, they come to CartStars for real talk, because that's what they know they'll get. It's just real talk. It's peers. Everybody is vetted. There's no way to get in without an invitation, and there's a wait room. So it's not like a LinkedIn or anything of that sort where everybody is able to just jump on. We're really careful about who we invite into our ecosystem.
Yeah, that's great. I wrote that. I wrote that quote down. I love that one. Why start from scratch when you can start with the network? Once again, as you mentioned, this is a vetted community, peer reviewed, and it's by invitation only. So you're getting some senior leaders that get it, and they have the same KPIs, and they have the same drive and desire for success of the people that work with them and the business as a whole, public or private. But knowing that you can kind of lean on and get some great advice from people from within the network, I think it's hard to put a price tag on that, to be honest with you. That's amazing. So I want to talk a little bit about your leadership style, because one of the things that come up in some of my search and stuff is that you have this kind of servant leadership style. And so I just want to talk a little bit about that philosophy. Like what does that mean to you? And then how does that style interact with the community at CartStars, being this kind of servant kind of leadership mentality?
I think most of CartStars would classify themselves as a servant leader. And it means, first of all, really thinking about the needs of the people that you are connected to and how you can deliver value. And I look for ways as a person, and we as a team at CartStars look for ways to deliver value to the relationships and the people that we have within the community and within our personal lives. Part of that is just a deep understanding of who the person across from you is, and what they might be looking for, and the commitment to take the time that it gets it takes to get to know someone to be able to understand that. And sometimes it's as simple as asking them how you can deliver value, but that's it in a crux, really. I would call it coming down to just these three factors, which is understanding how you can deliver value, being able to invest the time that it takes to get to know that person, to understand what value you can deliver to them. And there's no shortcuts around it, is what I would
Hmm.
say about servant leadership. It's not the cookie cutter, easy, you know, we're not going to be best friends today. So
Yeah.
it's really about building a relationship and continually thinking about ways you can add value and grow together.
Yeah, I love the idea of empowering. Yeah, empowering and developing others. I think that's one thing about senior leaders. They're not sometimes not in the trenches, but they are there to understand the team they work with, because it's the collective team is the reasons why a brand can do so well. Just building that trust, these relationships, like you said, and having a great work environment. Just the collaboration and teamwork idea. I think it's incredible. And I think that's kind of all encompasses kind of what you were mentioning about this kind of servant leadership style. I think it's pretty amazing. So I have another question to you about any challenges that you may have or are experiencing with building a community of some pretty high level C-suite and founder VP type people in our space. It's just like, other than the peer side of it, have you found any challenges building this community? Because there might be some people listening today that maybe are not in the commerce world, but they're just like, hey, we wouldn't mind building a community around in a whole different topic, or a different type of product, or a different type of hobby, or how, like, I just want to know if you've experienced any challenges, and then how you're attempting to and or overcoming those challenges.
Yeah, I would say that one of the challenges that we've experienced is everything at CartStars started in person, right? It was about bringing people together in person to build those relationships, share knowledge, and share insight. And so our biggest challenge has been now translating that into our digital ecosystem, which, is something that is relatively new to us. We've really been operating it and active in it for the last 6 months.
Right.
And so learning how we disseminate knowledge, how we share insights, how people receive information that is personalized to them is all something that we are working through and learning and sort of challenged with at this time. I will say that our start, even though it wasn't intentional, because we didn't know that we were going to build this digital ecosystem until we got to the point where we talked to the leaders and it sounded like this was what was needed. This was what we were going to be able to scale out to meet the needs of everyone who we'd met with. Is starting with that in person component has been extremely powerful for us in creating connections within our members and our group. I know there are companies out there that started with this online forum as their first foray into building community.
Right.
And I don't know how that has worked. We have some very successful companies like Reddit who do it. So obviously it's working. LinkedIn's doing
Right.
it. But in terms of just like fostering real connection, the in person has really been advantageous for us. And this became really clear in a recent conversation I had with one member of CartStars. And we were remarking about how social media in general has given us the ability to be really connected to people, so much so that I can know what you did last week, Steve.
Mhm.
It's on LinkedIn, who you spoke with, all these things about you.
Right.
But that doesn't speak to the depth of the relationship that we have, which is,
Right.
can I call Steve if I need help? Like,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
probably shouldn't do that, right?
You can.
No, yes. Yes, I can. Right. This is, yes, you're right. That's a different example. But
Yeah.
there's just there and it's not just that, it's just that social media or these digital platforms. I don't know if, it's gonna replace just having that in-person component of meeting someone face to face and just really feeling like they're a real person and, being able to have that conversation. So if you're a community builder out there, I would say, you know, the in-person component has been huge if you can find a way to wrap that around and give your humans the opportunity to meet together in some shape or form. That has been great for us. And if you have been scaling a really successful digital community and, have some insights you want to share with me, please feel free to reach out. I believe in, just learning from everyone and everyone having a valuable perspective that helps shape outcomes, honestly.
Yeah, love it. So, what do you think some of the next steps are now? We've certainly shared your journey. You're building something very unique. It's clearly, and it's thanks to the community itself, and the in-person community you've built has now started to build out this digital presence. And so those that are listening today, I know you're invitation only. What do you believe some of the next steps are for those leaders that potentially are in that VP C-suite kind of founder level in large brands that are listening today and like, wow, I had no idea this even existed? What do you believe kind of the next steps are for those people? And then those that are on maybe early stage companies that are just maybe not quite at that level yet, what are you kind of recommending for them to start improving their careers and growing personally and the business that they're involved with?
Yeah, that is a very good question. For people who are, the Fit for CartStars executives who are interested in becoming a part of, our community, I'd say, reach out, connect with me on LinkedIn, get on our radar so that we can send an invitation your way and take a look at what you do. We're really looking for people who have a diversified knowledge so that we can answer any and all questions in CartStars. For those people that are early and starting, I think the biggest recommendation that I have is, and I feel like there are lots of spaces for people that are in that early stage, but as the founder, being able to find your group and your community, also same thing, reach out, get on our radar. We're always happy to help and support and grow along with everyone that's in retail and e-commerce. So yes.
Perfect. So I'll make sure I update the show notes for today's episode with your LinkedIn profile and cartstars.com. I believe there's a link even on there. But I know it's an invitation only and I'll sign in. But I guess let's get to know each other through social first, through LinkedIn, and then see if it's a good fit. And then I think from there, there are a lot of kind of early stage communities for those that are not quite ready for CartStars. Their career or business acumen is just not quite there yet. Then there's lots of other communities, and I'll put a few links in the show notes for that. And so, this has been great. I learned a lot today about the uniqueness of what you're building. It's something that's needed in the community for sure. I love the hybrid approach of how we're using the digital side and how we are then, planning these IRL events, these small events, but then on the flip side, fostering this kind of community and personal relationships and building this trust and stuff. So I think you're really onto something very unique. I want to thank you for being honest and open and sharing. And I want to wish you continued success as you build this great community.
Thank you so much, Steve. I really enjoyed speaking with you. And I actually do realize I have a sneak pass for people who are listening and want to get into CartStars.
Okay.
Go on LinkedIn and find members of CartStars. Just type in CartStars and you'll see the people who've listed it on their profile who are early founding members. Mm-hmm. And, if it's someone ask them to vouch for you and invite you into the community. That is the fastest way, but still welcome to get on my radar. And, we love to connect, but the fastest way is probably that.
Yeah, I did that myself actually just for recording. I typed in CartStars and then I went to see one of your recent events and then I just clicked on people and then I just kind of cruised through some of the people that are part of it. And so there's some really great leaders here and some really well-known, amazing brands that are part of your network. So I really appreciate that. But well, have yourself a great afternoon. Thanks again for recording and, we'll be in touch.
Yes, and happy Canada Day to you, Steve.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
All right. Have yourself a great afternoon.
Thanks, you too.
All right. Take care. Well, that's it for today's episode. I'd like to thank you personally for being a loyal listener of E-commerce Fastlane. It's my hope that this podcast is offering you a ton of value through growth strategies, tactics, and exclusive insider tips on the best Shopify apps and marketing platforms, all with my personal goal to help you build, manage, grow, and scale a successful and thriving company powered by Shopify. Thanks for investing some time today and listening to the show. I'm so proud and excited that you have a growth mindset and are a constant learner. I truly appreciate you and your entrepreneurial journey. Enjoy the rest of the week and keep thriving with Shopify.